There were many, many women there who had never worked outside the home before. So these women made many, many sacrifices to get to work. And their stories were all interesting. Each one of them had a separate story, so it was all very interesting. And the women were doing the work of the men who had gone into service. So that left those jobs in defense plants without any workers. And if it hadn't been for the women, those plants could not have operated.
The name Rosie the Riveter and the fact that she became an iconic nickname for some 8 million women who went to work during World War II in what had been men's jobs is widely known. But was she an actual woman, the model for Howard Miller's "We Can Do It" poster, or Norman Rockwell's Rosie on the cover of a 1943 issue of the Saturday Evening Post? Claims of being the real Rosie have been made for both women. Neither, however, is correct. Rosie the Riveter was introduced in November 1942 in a song that described her as follows: "A little frail who could do more than a male." Although the record version never achieved hit status, the song may have tipped the scales for Rosie's over other suggested nicknames such as Wendy the Welder. As men went into the service, women became machinists and mechanics, quality-checked ordnance, and made gas masks in war plants and factories. Still, it was their riveting and welding that drew the most attention.
Those women pulled together and they united and they did quality work because there was no room for error, because any little mistake could have cost a serviceman his life. So there was dedication, there was patriotism, there was determination to do a job and do it well. So I think it has a very important impact. And we had an impact on the introduction of women into the workforce.
Women working in shipyards and aircraft plants were often featured in patriotic advertisements, in songs, and in newsreels. One such location was the Boeing plant in Seattle, Washington, where an airplane was built that would forever link Rosie's with the Netherlands' liberation. That plane, the 5 Grand, was the 5,000th B-17 that came off the Boeing assembly line. As per custom, it was signed by everyone who helped build it. Unlike other planes that were signed in chalk and washed before they left the factory, this airplane's signatures were painted on and left for everyone to see. Since many of the 40% of the workers were women, many of the names on its fuselage were of Rosie's. The 5 Grand was sent to England, where it would fly 74 bombing missions over Germany. Then, in May 1945, its mission changed. It flew its final sorties over the Netherlands to drop food, not bombs. Operation Manna had started on April 29, when 242 British Lancaster bombers dropped 535,000 tons of food for a starving population. After the first wave of bombers were not shot at and were able to release their precious cargo, one person was quoted as saying, "That's it, the war is over."
Basically, what the women did during World War II helped to win the war. They went from farms and many different jobs into the war industries to build the ships and the planes and all that the young men went to fight for our freedom, gave up. It was just very important that everybody pulled together to do their part to help to win the war.
For many Dutch, April 29, 1945 was the real Liberation Day. 2 days later, American planes joined the airlift they codenamed Operation Chowhound. On May 2nd, 5 Grand, still proudly inscribed with the names of so many Rosies, was one of 40 B-17s that dropped almost 70,000 tons of foodstuff and more over Schiphol. Items included bags of flour, tins of bacon, dried ham, veal, pork, and beef, milk powder, margarine, coffee, sugar, powdered eggs, biscuits, butter, condensed milk, chocolates, and cigarettes. This food from the air, the Dutch called it voedselbombardement, was a unique airmailed message of care and compassion from the women and men of America to the grateful people of Holland. When the war ended, Rosie's invaluable work was acknowledged at home. It is unlikely, however, that the 5 grand Rosies ever learned that the weapon of war they'd helped to build had become a life-saving harbinger for peace. Unlike World War II's military veterans, their contributions to the Allied victory received little recognition until about 15 years ago. One reason may have been that many Rosies believed they had done nothing special or heroic, just their jobs to help bring the boys home. When the Netherlands formally thanked them for their role in saving Dutch lives, including my own, and hastening the war's end, it was among the first countries to do so. When finally recognized and to preserve their legacy, Rosies chose to plant trees that would symbolize how they had pulled together during the war and that would bloom each year as an expression of their hope for the future. The pink dogwood that they picked, both beautiful and enduring, can serve as an annual reminder of the women's critical role in securing a peaceful world.
5 years ago, in May 2015, the Netherlands Embassy hosted a ceremony to recognize the work of Rosie the Riveter. Rosie was not one single woman, but an American icon representing all women who worked in US factories to build the machines and munitions that soldiers used to fight World War II. More than a dozen women from around the country were Rosies, as we affectionately call them, gathered here at the embassy in Washington, D.C. We planted a dogwood tree here on the grounds of the embassy. And at the same time, a dogwood tree was also planted in the Liberation Museum, now the Freedom Museum, in Groesbeek, the Netherlands. That tree is still here in the garden of our embassy. Let's have a look. As you can see, the tree is standing strong and reminds us of the work of those remarkable Rosies, their contribution in our joint victory against tyranny. Their work still resonates today. In this special year, during which we commemorate 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands, I would like to express my gratitude to the Rosies on behalf of the Dutch people. Your work greatly supported America's efforts to liberate the Netherlands. The people of the Netherlands will never forget your commitment and your dedication. Finally, I would like to thank the West Virginia-based non-profit organization Thanks, Plain and Simple, led by Anne Montag, who has worked tirelessly to promote the Rosies and their legacy.